Maki slowly cleaned the mess of fake blood he made in the hallway and the bathroom, his hands shaking as if they were covered in real blood. The image of Matsun crying because of him stayed engraved into his mind as a not-so-subtle reminder of his enormous fuck-up. Guilt gnawed in his chest, wrapping around his heart. Sure, he had seen Matsun cry before, but he was never the cause of it. At least he hoped so. And the utterly broken look in his eyes was something he wished he had never seen. But it was too late now. He made his boyfriend cry with his stupid prank, apparently broke him more than anything before and drove him from their home. All that in a span of less than 5 minutes. Great job, hero. He let out a shaky breath, tossing the bloodied shirt into the laundry and washed away the last remnants of the fake blood from his hands. He would gladly smash his head into the sink, repeatedly for how stupid he was, but that probably wouldn't be the best thing to do considering the situation. God damn it, this whole thing. And here I thought Oikawa had the dumbest ideas from the 4 of us. He should have known better. No matter how indifferent Matsun seemed to most people, Maki knew him long enough to know just how gentle and soft heart his boyfriend had, and how some things could rattle him to the core. Like when they lost to Karasuno in their last year of high school, or when he had to prepare that funeral for a child, and now Maki pretended he got stabbed. And this was also by far the worst case. Matsun didn't usually cry in front of people. He didn't usually run off. And yet, Maki managed to make him do both with one stupid prank. Fucking great job. He wished he at least knew where Matsun went to. He ran after him as soon as he broke out from his stupor, but by the time he got on the street, Matsun was nowhere to be seen. He sent him several apologetic messages, practically begging him to come back home, but Matsun didn't even read them. He didn't pick up either when Maki tried to call him, and after a second call, the phone sent him straight into Matsun's voicemail. And now Maki was worried. Like seriously worried. There were times, especially after he woke up from another of his nasty nightmares, when Matsun would completely shut down for several minutes. He would just sit or stand where he was without emotion or word, staring ahead with an empty gaze. These episodes were far worse than anything else, because Maki knew his boyfriend was at some nasty place in his head, where he couldn't help him in any way. He could just wait until it was over and then offer him comfort. And thinking about Matsun's state when he left the flat, Maki was scared he could shut down again somewhere and get hit by a car or to get hurt in some other way. He shivered, ice-cold hands squeezing around his heart as he dialed Matsun's number again. Please pick up. Please. I need to know you are okay. But the call fell into the voicemail again. He groaned, feeling absolutely helpless. He hid his face in his palms, listening to the silly voicemail message he recorded for Matsun when they started dating all those years ago. Please be okay. Matsun POV. He didn't know where he was going. He let his legs choose the direction for him. He just needed to get out and breathe. He wiped away the mist from his eyes to at least see on the way, ignoring the weird looks the passerbys gave him. He couldn't care less. The only thing on his mind was that horrible sight of Maki lying on the cold, white bathroom floor with blood all over his middle. His heart stopped at that moment. It was a nightmare come true. All the blood and Maki's pale skin and lifeless body. He couldn't remember any time he was more scared than at that very moment. Now, he just felt empty. From the moment Maki revealed all of that was just a sick joke, he didn't feel anything. He knew he should be angry, or sad, or disappointed. Probably even relieved because it wasn't real and Maki was alive. But there was just a giant, empty pit in his chest where the emotions should be. Why, Hiro? Why? Why this? He turned his phone off after the second call. He couldn't listen to Maki's voice. Not now. He stopped in front of a dimly lit building and sighed. Of course he ended up here of all places. He hesitated for a moment before he walked into the bar. The place looked exactly the same as 3 years ago when he was there for the last time. Maki hated when he drank, so he promised him and himself he won't come here again. And yet, here he was. But Maki was also the cause of all his inner struggle right now, so he could only blame himself for it. He frowned at the thought and shook his head to chase it away. Don't blame it on others. It was your choice to come here. He slid onto the familiar seat and ordered his first shot, which he immediately emptied in one go and asked for another. It was going to be a long night. He would gladly drink himself into unconsciousness that night. He wanted that pit in his chest to disappear, but the bartender refused to give him anything after his 6th shot, which was probably a good thing when his fuzzy mind thought about it. His head was spinning slightly, and his legs felt heavier than lead, his steps wobbly as he made his way back to their flat. Back to Hiro. He clenched his jaw. Hiro, it is all your fault. All of it. Why did you have to do that prank? Why? He gritted his teeth, feeling the alcohol-fueled anger flaring in his chest as he came closer to the building where their flat was. The lights in their windows were still on, meaning Maki didn't go to sleep yet. Your fault. Maki POV. Maki was already losing hope of reaching Matsun. He stopped with the attempts to call and just prayed he won't hear about a black-haired man getting hit by a car or murdered in tomorrow's news. He took a short breath, clenching his hands together. Even if Matsun was alright, the list of horrible scenarios in Maki's head didn't end there. He always took their relationship for very sturdy, but now he wasn't sure if that state was about to continue on. He wouldn't blame Matsun in the slightest if he came back and said they need a break, or if he didn't come back at all, but that didn't mean he wasn't terrified of the prospect. Matsun wasn't the only one suffering from nightmares. He startled when something heavy smashed into the main door. Again. And again. Hiro! Maki's heart jumped into his throat. Unwanted memories he would rather forget flooding his mind. No, he can't be here. Hiro! Open the door! The words were a bit slurred and muffled by the wall, but even then Maki recognized his boyfriend's voice, which didn't calm him down in the slightest right now. But he got up and headed to the door, worried Matsun might wake up all their neighbors. He stumbled back, the smell of alcohol hitting his nose. Matsun was leaning on the doorframe, looking a bit unsteady on his feet. The fact that he went drinking again was scary, but nothing was scarier than the dark look in his eyes. Issei, what did you... Did you have fun? Maki froze. He had never heard Matsun sound so angry and broken at the same time. He also never growled at him. Until now. Issei, Was it funny? Huh? Did you have a good laugh? He pushed himself into the apartment. Maki backed away, his heart in his throat. He flinched when Matsun slammed the door behind him. I'm sorry, Issei. I know it was wrong to do that prank. I didn't want to hurt you. But you did. Maki stepped back, alarmed, his mind flashing to a similar situation long years ago. No, don't. He would never. I know. Trust me, I know, and I'm sorry. But please, can you sober up first? Then we can... Matsu no less than snarled at him. Then we can what exactly? I don't want to listen to your apologies. You fucking scared me. And for what? Issei. Don't Issei me. Do you know how it feels when you see your nightmare come true? What it feels like when the thing that haunts you for years is suddenly real in front of you? Maki froze. That's your nightmare? About me dying? His heart sank. In all the years they were together, Matsu never told him what his nightmares were about. Just that they were terrifying. And now he apparently unintentionally recreated it. I'm sorry, I didn't... Matsu's eyes darkened. And that's supposed to undo everything? Maki clenched his hands to stop them from shaking. He knew Matsu wouldn't hurt him. He knew. He's not him. He's not. Please, Issei, let's talk about it in the morning when you aren't drunk and... And what? What will change, huh? Do you think it will all disappear? Issei, please. Stop saying my name. This is your fault. All of it. He threw up his arms and Maki instinctively covered, protecting his head with his arms. All the memories from his childhood came crashing into him in full force. His father coming home drunk, the fear he always felt when he heard the door opening, the pain from all the bruises the man left at him. He knew the raised hand wasn't meant to hit him. He knew Matsun wouldn't hurt him. But now it wasn't his boyfriend in front of him. Not in his mind. Not at this moment. Silence settled in the room, interrupted only by Maki's strangled, frantic breathing. Hiro? Maki didn't wait and bolted out of the living room to the first door he came across. Wait, please. He shut the door behind him and locked it, the key falling from his trembling fingers. He heard footsteps coming to the door and let out a strangled sob. Stay away! Hiro! Stay away! He slid down the door, curling into a ball, unable to stop the tears rolling down his face. Stay away! There was a muffled rustling behind his back and a somewhat soft thud on the door. Hiro, please. I'm sorry. Yeah, I heard that before. It was always lie. I'm not lying. I didn't want to hurt you. I swear. He also heard that countless times. Same lie as the sorry. He never meant it. His father never meant a word he said. He was drunk, no matter how sober he now sounded. Hiro. No matter how sober his father sounded now. No, it's not him. Father's dead. Please, I didn't want this. It's Issei, not my father. He's not like that. He wouldn't hurt me. He wouldn't. But no matter how much he believed that, no matter how broken Matsun sounded now, he stayed as he was. He didn't move to open the door. He didn't answer. He couldn't stop shaking. Matsun POV. Matsun wasn't doing much better. His hands were trembling as he leaned on the door to their guest room to stabilize himself, his heart breaking with Maki's every muffled sob he heard through the wall. He felt sick, guilt almost knocking him on the ground. He had never seen Maki so terrified. And the worst part was, it was his doing. His fault. He mentally sent himself into the deepest hell, utterly disgusted by himself. I'm so sorry, Hiro. No answer came. Not that he was surprised. He fucked up. Royally. He pushed himself off the wall and slowly stumbled to the kitchen for water to try and sober up. He needed to sober up. Fast. Filling the glass, he squeezed it in his hand as he leaned on the counter. He knew why Maki hated when he drank. He told him about his drunkard of a father and about what that asshole did to him before they got together. He knew, and he still broke the promise he gave to Maki and himself about drinking, in the worst way possible. He smashed his fist on the counter and cried out in pain as the glass shattered in his hand, the shards cutting deep into his palm. A colorful curse left his mouth through his gritted teeth, the pain only intensifying as he pulled the biggest shard out, the bright red blood immediately flowing freely on the counter. Fuck. He pulled out the rest of the bloody shards, cringing slightly at the fast-growing pool of blood that started to drip on the floor. He pressed the nearest towel to his palm and hissed in pain as the smaller pieces he couldn't get out buried deeper into his flesh. Serves you right, you asshole. He sighed and leaned his forehead on the wall cupboard, waiting for the bleeding to stop. The blood was already soaking through the cloth, but he couldn't bring himself to care. You deserve worse than this. Getting shot wouldn't be enough. You say? He froze. He didn't even hear the door opening. It's fine, don't worry. He wasn't sure if he was referring to his cut hand, or that he was no longer a potential threat to Maki. Probably both. Sighing, he closed his eyes to avoid Maki's gaze, too scared to see the fright in it again. It's not fine, you are bleeding. Matsun chuckled humorlessly. Deserved, don't you think? He finally gathered enough courage to look up, meeting Maki's gaze. I'm sorry, Hiro. I wasn't going to hit you, I swear. I wouldn't. I could never. Maki sighed and carefully took Matsun's hurt hand into his own, changing the towel. I know you wouldn't. I just panicked when you shouted. I'm not scared of you. You don't sound too sure about it. You don't have to spare my feelings. I know I fucked up. Maki gave him a strict look. I'm not scared of you. Just... my mind took me back and it suddenly wasn't you, but... And I covered on instinct, not because of you. Matsun blinked. I'm sorry. I didn't want to yell at you, but... the prank... it all looked like the nightmares I have and it got to me. I'm sorry. Maki shook his head and cupped Matsun's face with his free hand. It's not your fault. Of course it is. How? It's not. I hurt you first, remember? If I didn't do the prank, you wouldn't be so fucked you had to go to a bar. I'm sorry I brought up your nightmares. It wasn't on purpose, but even though I didn't know about it, I should have realized how much would something like this hurt you. Hiro, I'll take the blame, it's alright. I messed up too. Just promise me you won't get drunk again. Please. Matsun nodded and leaned into Maki's palm on his cheek. I promise. Good. Let's get you to the hospital now. It's not that bad. Maki frowned at him. You are bleeding over the whole counter, and it won't stop soon because you are still drunk. So stop being stubborn and let's go. Despite the guilt still present in his chest, Matsun had to smile. He wrapped the towel firmly around his hand. Alright then. But please drive carefully, okay? We don't need a car crash on top of this. Huh? How dare you? My driving is flawless. Come on. Matsun huffed a quiet laugh and sent a short prayer for their lives to the gods before following his boyfriend to the car.